Hi everyone, I am so excited to see you. It is not a coincidence that you and I are sharing this moment right now. Do you know I've been working as a medium for over 25 years, and my eyes are so wide open right now and focused on this deep inner need of an awakening. Like life is consciously connecting to all that is. So I've decided to create the Lighter Side Network, where each show and each host reminds us how the everyday meets the extraordinary. Be it in the realm of mindfulness and healthy living, having an empowered and authentic life with humor, trusting your intuition and communicating with beyond, energy healing and releasing unconscious obstacles, astrology, living in your joy and truth, and so much more. Join us as we share our knowledge and experiences with you. We're going to have so much fun.
Hi everybody, my name is Laura Boone.
Hi, my name is Ursula Lentini.
Hey everyone, I'm Thershna Patel.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Karen.
Join me on my show.
Are you ready?
Only on the Lighter Side Network.
Only on the Lighter Side Network.
The Lighter Side Network, where the everyday meets the extraordinary. That's us. Hi Lumineers, this is the official Welcome to the Lighter Side show live on Facebook. Today we're going to be working with Grace, and she's going to be answering your questions about environmental changes and kind of what you can do to increase your 1% change, I think is all she's asking for, to better our environment and our earth. And Earth Day is coming, 2 days. Mm-hmm. So this is like really appropriate.
It is.
Okay, I'm going to see you later.
And not purposely planned this way.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Or maybe they did.
You never know.
Who knows? Colleen's going to entertain you for a little bit. I'm going to check out. Hi, Karen. It's good to see you. Well, see your text. Isn't that weird?
Right. I don't know how much I'm going to entertain them.
She's going to announce a song and dance for Tom, just to prove that she is a kid at heart. And there she goes.
We're actually just going to watch you.
Oh, God, no. Nerve-wracking. Here we go. I just heard, calm down, Jamie. I'm like, I don't think I can. We got the giggles right now. The church giggles. All right, Lumineers, check it out over here. This is where Grace is. My grandfather is right behind me. He's a little bit taller. And Maitland is now standing in between us. You still have the giggles.
I do.
Hi, Grace.
Hello. Good morning, Grace.
Is it morning?
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
It is for us. I'm sure some of our viewers are later in the day.
Yes, we have viewers from all over. Hello, Lumineers. How are you doing today? Well, I'm certain you will let me know, and Colleen will tell me.
Absolutely. Everyone's saying hi. Good morning.
Do you think there's any kind of technology that will let us be able to view them or at least hear them? Like if there was an open forum and they were able to sign in and to view, but also to be able to like ring in and then we can hear their voices.
I think so. I think maybe we could do that on Zoom or another device like that, but we'd have to limit our audience.
What if we were able to have a phone console? We keep Facebook Live, my little Lumineers on Facebook, but then we have a call-in number
Okay.
so that we can hear them speak to us.
That would be fantastic. I
think
know that
would
we
be a
have
lovely interaction.
We've talked about that, haven't we, Jesse?
Yeah,
of getting
Jamie's planned on that is on our wish list of things.
Yeah.
It's on our wish list.
Yes.
that we could have people call in during shows and on Facebook Live. And
Yes, because I really feel like we need to communicate better to everybody that is out there trapped in this tiny phone sitting up here so that we can hear from you.
Someone's saying in Google Hangouts.
Well, let's look at Google Hangouts. That
Yeah.
sounds very casual. It's
Jesse's
what we
writing
like.
it down. Yes. We'll figure it out.
Good.
You want to hear their voices.
Keep the suggestion coming. I would love to hear their voices. And then we can talk really to what they're feeling, because when your fingers are on the keyboard, my love, I can understand exactly what you're typing because it can be read. But to understand exactly emotionally where you're coming from takes a different quality of listening. At least when you're in a human body. But when I'm with you, I understand it completely. So let's begin. We're going to talk about climate change and what you can do. And I'd love to know what kind of questions you have on this topic. And let's begin.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I don't know that we have any actual questions yet. I think that let's start talking about the topic, and then we'll get some. We're getting a lot of hellos, different ideas about the conference line.
Oh, I love that. Lumineers, give us suggestions. And I think I do need to apologize because I'm taking us off topic. But I would love to hear your suggestions because, my loves, I have looked at other places and really on this stage and on this network seems to be the place where people are channeling and building communities and delivering the news and information from spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowing us to have the stage, and I think if we build it stronger, then we can have more spirit speaking directly to you. The channeled news.
The channeled news. I like that.
So Earth Day is coming up, and I'm very happy to see that Earth Day is actually on the calendar. Because honestly, when is her birthday? I was speaking about this
Talking
with
about that.
Jamie it was like a month ago, and we're talking about how do you celebrate Earth. And really, when we look at celebrating being a human, it's on your birthday. And isn't it fantastic to receive your cakes and cookies and blow out the candles? But there's not really that acknowledgement for the planet that we live on. In fact, she's often taken for granted. And it's not necessarily a she, and that we need to see her as being feminine, but it is the feminine on Earth that reproduces and provides fruit and carries on life. So it's quite appropriate that we do associate her to being female. Now, what most of us are doing on Earth is not acknowledging her and taking her resources. Is that you, Lumineer? Are you taking resources and not giving back? So how do you give back? It could be something as simply as recycling, choosing what product that you buy in your store that creates less waste, and choosing product that in its manufactured state creates less CO2s. So to know that, we're to do your research and to identify which companies are supporting and offsetting their CO2s. There's a wonderful list online. There are many places who are communicating this information, but some other things that I really enjoy is using your rainwater, using solar power. Now, have you talked about water a lot? Because in water, I think it was about, I don't really know your time quite well, maybe about a decade ago, where the conversation was about the water wars. Oh, it's going to be horrible. Places are going dry. This is the climate that's changing. With global warming, we heat up first before we go cold. And the glaciers are melting. And all of this worry and concern about water is real. So there is water that's accessible that you might not know of, such as harvesting the fog, the dew that's in the air, harvesting drip water from handmade, threaded, beautiful pieces of art that are outside that collect the dew and the fog from the air and then drop it into a well, and the earth keeps it cool, and then you pump it out through solar power. There is all kinds of ways for you to preserve water. Now imagine if you alone could produce about 15% of your water use within your own home. What would that look like in the long run? What would it look like to you?
To reduce the water consumption by 15%?
Yes, by you generating and reusing rainwater, or maybe having a threaded fog collector. The name of it truly escapes me. There's so many different names. And being able to give the water consumption to your family without taking it from the well or from your city.
Or to your plants or your animals. I know at our house we've done where we've had the rain barrel and then the chicken gets the water or the plants get the water, so that we're not using tap water for the garden or the chickens or the indoor plants.
And it's quite terrible what's in your tap water. You can research your city online and what is found in your tap water. But I warn you, Lumineers, it is something you cannot unsee. You might not like what you find, and in that case, you'll
Filter.
go straight out and buy your filter.
Yeah, absolutely. Filter that tap water. Even before you do the research, start filtering it. So I think we're getting a lot of questions now. I see them coming up on the screen, so I can look on my screen because I can't see those.
Right, because she needs new prescriptions.
I do need a new prescription. So new glasses or contacts coming soon. So Jen Streck, hello Jen.
Hello, Jen, my
She
love.
says she's very passionate about the environment, and she's wondering why our government does not recognize some of these dangers that could be happening now and affecting our children's future.
Our government currently in the United States. Is that not
I
accurate?
think that she's referring to the United States, yes.
This will get very political.
This has become a very political topic because there's denial of climate change.
Well, it's unfortunate because climate change has been presented as a belief system. And so there are many people who do not believe in God, and there are many people who do. And so it is a battle of belief. But when we are looking at climate change, we do have very solid, hard facts that it is indeed occurring. Now, those solid facts, for many reasons, are not getting into your hands, Jen, and they're not getting into your government's hands. And if they are, there are companies that hold a lot of wealth that want to keep the information contained. So it is a bit of paying off the man to keep him quiet so that the oil companies can then have more success and more financial money than any others. Because if we pay attention to global warming, these companies would no longer be needed, their market would decrease, they would fold. And so I ask, honestly, what kind of person chooses money over the health of their own planet? And we point our fingers there. And then we point our fingers at our government of why are they accepting money and not accepting the facts. So it's corruption and it's greed. How do we look at corruption and greed? Is through love, consistency, being diligent, doing the research yourself, talking to other people about it, and really building a grassroots program and doing the most that you can for yourself to be sustainable, even if you're in the city, on the grid. What can you do to be more independent than you are now of your resources that are not natural? Next question.
Okay. Grace, what are some of the safest areas to live in the United States regarding climate change? Is it the Four Corners? Will Hawaii and Seattle be safe for a while?
Do I
As far as weather is concerned.
take it that you live partially in Seattle and partially in Hawaii? So when the waters rise, you definitely don't want to be anywhere near lower ground. So anything that is above sea level, I'd say above at least 100 foot sea level, you'll find yourself safe for quite a long time.
Well, I mean, flooding happens everywhere. Flooding happens in Atlanta. I mean,
yes.
Flooding
Well,
is.
I think another important part is that a lot of what we are going to see, at least in the continental United States, and I think in a large majority of the affluent world, is that climate change is first going to is going to appear as a humanitarian crisis, because countries, I think it's equatorial countries that are going to suffer the most, and those are also some of the poorest countries in the world. And
Yes.
so, I mean, like the Syrian crisis, it could, I mean, like it'll dwarf the Syrian crisis in a lot of ways, and that's how certainly the United States will see climate change at first. It's as a humanitarian crisis.
It's going to affect those people who.
Yeah, and they're gonna
Yeah.
they're not gonna have anywhere to go.
Which it already does, because it gets too hot, too cold, and you don't have those resources, or it's flooding, or
I know, and love, you're not even discussing about the flooding near the oceans, because when the salt water comes up on the streets and comes up into the land, it's killing the plants that are feeding the people in the area. So then all of a sudden, the soil is no good, and the water is contaminated, and it's not drinkable. So therefore, all of this has a big effect of where people are living and how they're sustaining themselves. So you're right. So it comes down to Peter Lombardi's thrivable communities.
and helping each
My
other
dear
out.
man, helping your neighbor out. Even if you are the one in need of help, you can still help the neighbor next to you. Together, we can make this bigger and better and stronger. So let's start thinking now. How can you be sustainable? Because if you can take those actions now in sustainability, not even thrivability is what Peter Lombardi discusses, that you have enough to sustain yourself and you've created an abundance to give to your neighbor. That is thrivability. Everyone can sustain themselves. And if we were able to do that, we can then reverse some of the CO2s that are being put out into our air and start changing our climate, which will help us reverse. And we are so close to tipping the scales to a point of no return that if action is not taken now by you, it is not now by your government, it is not by your mayor, it is by you. If action is not taken by you, we will find ourselves so close to the tipping point that the earth will not be able to be healed and she'll go through the cycle of coming apart before coming back together.
What are some simple ways, Grace, that we can all do on a daily basis to make a difference? And of course we can make changes with our voting, but what can we do every single day to make differences?
And besides writing letters to your congressman.
Yes. And besides recycling, we all are, I hope that we all
I
know that we
think
can
there is a big hole here in product selection. Product selection.
And
Who
packaging.
is making your product? How are their factories? How are they shipping? How much CO2s? How are they helping the environment? What kind of packaging are they using? Is it recyclable? What is that company's standards? And if they are now taking all this product and putting it into a store, why are you continuing to go to the store? Why aren't you writing the store saying, I want to shop with you, but you are promoting these companies that are destroying the earth? You have a voice, you're allowed to use it. So let's start practicing speaking up and saying to your grocery store, I love you, I want your business, but you're supporting these companies. How is that changing? Do you know, locally here in the south of United States, there is a grocery store named Publix. And Publix has now actively begun to change the product that they are stocking based on their environmental protection.
I didn't know that.
It is just very much at the beginning, but they're recognizing that is important. And it's not that they want to become a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or a Mother Earth, but they want to be consciously helping the environment. They're seeing an impact.
Stop using plastic bags.
Is Oh, I love.
I'm going to start sharing my. That's my biggest.
That's a
biggest
product
thing.
selection. That is a product
Stop
selection.
using. Yes. Stop using
And-
plastic bags.
And what about the nicer plastic bags are made? They're still plastic. So go for cloth. There's canvas bags, there's hemp bags, and you can wash them in your washing machine. You can't really do that with your paper and your plastic, right? Because there's bacteria that grows in on it. So that's nice. But it is product selection that is most important. Next.
I hear you. Bethany's saying where she lives, plastic bags are illegal.
Oh, my love, that is wonderful. Of course, you're up in the northwest, I do believe.
I'm looking. There's a lot of ideas being handled here. So I had someone comment earlier, and it's a one sentence, and I would just like to hear your response. So Barrett says that climate change isn't a human issue.
So, Barrett, you have a belief system that the climate change is a little bit like the menstrual cycle that Earth goes through every now and then. Is that correct? Because I don't want to create any assumptions.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm not sure that
But what's interesting, Barrett, is that before humans, the environment, the atmosphere, tested with completely different levels of CO2 emissions. And when we begin to look at what people are emitting and not creating an equal balance of, then indeed our footprints and our trails are causing an effect that the earth is not ready to manage or handle. So when we look in areas like India or China, where people are suffocating because they cannot breathe due to the level of pollution in their city. And Barrett, I mean people are dying because they cannot breathe the air in their home and in their city. Can you imagine, Barrett, right now not being able to breathe? And it's because of factories. It is because of industrial growth. It is not because the earth had some flagellants that has put out into the air that then these people cannot breathe. So tell me, my love, tell me honestly, because I would like to find where you're coming from, how our footprint is not harming the atmosphere, which is in return shifting and changing how the earth would respond naturally. And you are correct, my love, that the earth does have natural cycles, and those are things that we cannot be held liable for, such as the sunspots. So when the sun has flares and it heats up, in history we've noticed scientifically that when there are more solar flares, that the earth has more tragedy, more weather patterns, more upset. So those things, yes indeed, we are not in control over, but this is not the one factor that is contributing to changing the climate so drastically that we ourselves cannot walk on the surface of the earth.
Shannon Johnson has an idea about community gardens.
Hello,
She says,
love.
we do a large garden every year and then share the excess with neighbors so that it is a good 4 months, not just for us, but all we can help with. Would community gardens be better to begin? Something easier to start in your own area?
Absolutely. If you find yourself already past product selection, then you can go towards community gardens. What about, you were talking one day about sharing chickens.
Was
Like
I?
if one house had a chicken coop and had several chickens, but they can't eat all the eggs, that one neighbor would take Tuesday and the next neighbor would take Wednesday and you would have Thursday, and you could share
Sharing eggs.
the cost and the food and the everything and the care providing of the chickens. So it's much like a community garden.
And package free.
And package free, yes.
And compostable.
Good product selection. Shannon, it's a wonderful idea, and it's very good to think of what can you do sustainably on your own, and that definitely would include growing a garden. And let's say, Shannon, that you're very good at growing carrots, but you're not great at lettuce. In fact, the squirrels in your area won't let you grow the lettuce, but you have a friend a little bit away that's very good at lettuce. And so you can also just focus on one crop at a time, and then you can rotate crops due to the soil and to the use of the soil, but knowing that you have 4 other people participating in the same way, and so you can exchange in bulk so that you all have a bit of a variety.
I love it. Maitland talks a lot about that. She's been talking a lot about that for years.
Oh, yes.
The
to
garden and the
communicate.
sharing and the neighbors. Years.
Yes.
7
A long
years.
time.
8 years. Long time. Where are we?
Atlanta, Georgia.
We are in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for grounding me and bringing me back. There was a question that I would love for you to address because I feel like I know the answer, but apparently some of our viewers don't. Can you talk a little bit about styrofoam and the use of it and what styrofoam does to the earth and how long it takes for styrofoam to break down?
Does it even break down?
I don't believe
think
that it
does.
Very long time.
Hundreds of years, maybe?
Maybe longer.
That's
Well, it's
Jesse's-
just like plastic. When you create plastic, you cannot destroy it.
I think there are alternatives to styrofoam that are quite good, but and similar.
It's like a cornstarch styrofoam, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
one will break down because it's a natural product. But if it is the plastic-based styrofoam, I would refuse to purchase it. I would not buy the product because of the way the company is packaging it.
And if you have restaurants that are serving to-go items in it, tell the restaurant why you will not eat there anymore or get to-go items from there. I think that's what was being asked. There's a local restaurant that uses styrofoam.
Absolutely. And you can also make friends with your local restaurant and say, I love your food so much that when I order, do not package it. I will bring my own packaging and you can put it in that.
And that actually is illegal in some places because of health code. 'Cause
that's
I have tried to do that with bulk
really?
items. Yes.
With bulk items.
So if you go to a store to buy bulk,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to bring your own containers, some containers are actually illegal because of health codes. It's the truth.
Fantastic. Well, it really is time for you to start increasing your voice as Lumineers. So maybe by letting your restaurant know that they've lost your service, but if they were to buy 10 organic, disposable, properly disposable containers, that they can set them aside and put your name on it and that you will continue to buy food from them.
Here's someone who's saying, okay, that's not true. I'm assuming John Eric, if you want to share the link, that would be fantastic. So John Eric is saying there's a new natural bacteria that evolved to eat plastic. He read about it on a scientific blog last week. Now I have questions about that, John, and I would love to see that article because that bacteria cannot be located everywhere where there's plastic to be eating all of this plastic. So I understand that there might be a bacteria that eats plastic, but I don't think it's a readily available bacteria that's eating all the plastic that's sitting in landfills. But please prove me wrong.
I've heard bacteria that have been engineered
Mm-hmm.
to do this, but I don't know how sustainable that has proven to be.
Sure, and what the long-term...
Yeah,
effects
what
are.
repercussions are. But
Sure.
I think there have been some. I've definitely heard of cases where people have engineered, but certainly I don't think evolved. But
So from what I know, my love, it has been engineered and is not a natural bacteria. And the omission of what it does when it is dissolved or broken down is still a very sour effect. So it is best to support things that are naturally occurring in nature, and more are popping up beyond cornstarch, beyond paper, that are naturally dissolvable. So I would still encourage product selection, but I would love to post the article. So thank you for bringing that.
And he's saying here they are re-engineering the natural one to do it faster. So they're re-engineering
I believe
a
that.
bacteria to eat plastic faster.
This is not going to go well.
I think that sounds like a disaster, but I'm not trying to be negative about it. I also think that why just not do the plastic? Instead of saying I'm going to do plastic because there's a bacteria eating it, just not doing it in the first place.
It's
Maybe?
true.
Microphone. I've touched the microphone. And Jen did confirm what I had said. Thank you, Jen. That her and her husband own a restaurant, and they cannot let people bring in their own containers to take food out. It's a health code violation.
Thank you.
It's unfortunate, but yeah. Okay. So Mary Lloyd, hi Mary.
Hello, Mary.
In addition to styrofoam, can you talk about other common items that we should be using less of, like straws, etc.? There's a lot of those little things every single day that we use that we don't think are making a big impact, but if we put them all in a pile over time, we would see how much of effect they actually have. And straws is one of them. What else is there?
There are paper straws,
Mm-hmm.
so that is an alternative selection. Plastic silverware, but now they do have a cornstarch silverware
Mm-hmm.
that appears to be plastic but is dissolvable, which is a nice exchange. Looking at plastic plates. So anything in the kitchen, there's a high disposable rate because of food and cleanliness. So there's a lot there. How about when you go to buy your soaps, detergents, that if you buy the first bottle and then you just buy the reusable, the refillables, the gallon. So buying in bulk helps decrease the amount of plastics that you're going to be purchasing. Anytime you can buy in bulk, I do recommend it. If it's not, if you're not able to buy in bulk because of storage, then maybe you can look at sharing product with neighbors. There's a lot of times where if you buy in bulk with toilet paper, that maybe you don't need 50 rolls of toilet paper because you don't have the closet to store it, but you could do 25 and your neighbor can do 25, that it's still a very healthy deal. So buying and consuming really the product in a larger format within a community does help the cost for your pocket and also the cost for earth. And I would also look at products, I would look at their ingredients. So anything that has lead, lead is not doing well for the human existence, and there are still even makeups and lipsticks out there that have that. I would look at any product that has carcinogens, that has chemicals in it that's not digestive. So this is looking at how to create a better, healthy physical body for yourself. But mostly when you're making changes, I would love for you Lumineers to ask why. So why is the product being created? How is it giving back to the community, to Earth? Ask why the store, the restaurant, the retail shop is carrying that product, and why do they believe in it? And if it's all money driven and it's all for greed and success, then question, is that the kind of activity that you want to feed into? Or are you the type of person that wants to feed into a different kind of community, taking care of oneself, taking care of the earth? Now, really, it's a choice. And Lumineers, a choice is a choice, and it belongs to you, not me. And it is not upon me to judge or say yay or nay, though I am discussing what I see as being options that create a better and healthy world. It is up to you to choose to do so, and I will love you no matter what you choose, because it is you who has the power, and it is you who controls it, not I. Just a reminder. I think a lot of people start hearing this and saying, well, I'm a bad person, and if I don't do this, then I won't have that support. And I don't want that to carry on with you at all.
And you only know what you know. And you can only carry on with that knowledge. So and you can't beat yourself up over what you did in the past. You can just move forward in the future with making better
decisions, yes.
Better decisions. I'm labeling them as better, but yeah.
We'll call them wholesome decisions. It's considering the whole.
Sustainable decisions, thrivable decisions.
I like that. Thrivable decisions.
Peter's got me using that word.
Yes, he does.
It's a
He
great
has us
word.
all using it. I think we have time for a few more.
We do. We have time maybe for 2 more questions here. So, Jessica Marcus, will Mother Earth manage to degrade any of the terrible petroleum products like plastics we've buried in our water systems? What will be the long-term effects 100 years, 1,000 years from now?
Those effects in 100 years will pretty much look like what you're looking at now. So land pollution, do you call them dumps?
Like a landfill. There are several people that still use the word dump.
Landfill.
Landfill.
And which can contaminate the soil, the area around it. And if it gets into spring water or water sources underground, then it can contaminate the water. So a lot of the polluting comes from not properly storing the disposable items or unneeded items in landfills or in recycling factories. Often they end up in the water. So if we look in countries like India who do not have big programs on recycling or putting trash in its proper place, the water is highly contaminated and there are a lot of illnesses that are created from that. So in 100 years, we're looking at the same thing. But in 1,000 of years, then this is going to be based on the decisions that we're making now. How are we going to change before we hit the tipping point of increasing temperatures and not helping the earth balance and manage herself? There's an offset. Life is about a balance. And Lumineers, I do not mean the balance as an equal, 50-50. I mean balance as if you provide an action or take something, what is going to happen over here to counteract so that overall across a day, a week, a year, a lifetime, that it is offset. So we're not looking at absolute equals, but some sort of give and take and balance, like in any healthy relationship. So upon what we're doing now is what will Earth look like in 1,000 years. Now, I don't ever see it getting to... It's a very cute movie with the little robot and the cockroach. Wall-E. I don't see it like Wall-E, but I do see a lot of places so contaminated that people do not live on it anymore. But we have a lot of creative and very innovative people out there that we can have a lot of pride in and a lot of hope in, that take the act of recycling to the 100th degree and will find ways to balance and counteract and rebuild the landfill to where we do have the healthy soil and we do have the healthy water. But what happens, Lumineers, is that these people get swept underneath the current because there is more money in polluting than money in recycling. So we're getting back to what is greed and what is money for us, and why does that mark our status or level of happiness and success? It is a better question to answer before we start taking care of the earth. One more.
Okay. So I have a question from Karen Mask.
Hello, Karen.
And Karen asks, what are your thoughts on the tiny living movement? Although designed to utilize a smaller environmental footprint to be self-sustaining, it seems to be more of a fad than a realistic strategy.
Yes, you're right. It seems more of a fad, which is very nice. Everybody lives in a tiny tree house. But then one day everybody will feel cramped. So your lifestyle, however big or little you wish to live, is wonderful for you. It is the footprint that you have. Now, I personally, if you're asking me, would like to see the rooftop garden movement, because there is so much rooftop being left bare, ignored, reflective, creating heat, and not doing a proper job of creating greenery, creating food, a place to be. So
Same with yards. I'm
Oh,
just going to
same
throw
with
that
yards.
in.
Yes.
There's a lot of wasted land that are just manicured lawns that no one's doing anything on.
yes, and imagine the CO2's created to manage those lawns. The gas, the electricity, the manpower,
The
you know,
spray.
and the spray, the chemicals. I would love to see a crew of landscapers or lawn care. What do you call them?
Lawn care.
Lawn
Yeah.
care that use no electricity, no gas. They come in, they have the old-fashioned push blade mower, right? So it's a little bit of manpower.
I'm sure they exist.
And
There's
they
people doing
have
this.
hand shears, and they manually trim and cut and haul things off, and they sweep instead of using the blowers. I think it would be a fantastic movement. Lumineers, thank you so much for being here with us. I truly do appreciate your comments. I truly appreciate the way that you expand each other's minds. Please do continue the conversation at home, continue it with other Lumineers, continue it with your restaurants, with your grocery stores, with the product of your selection, and practice sharing that voice, because it is you who chooses to shine the light. Take care, Lumineers. Godspeed.
Bye, everybody.
The lighter side with Jamie. The lighter side with Jamie. The lighter side.